Centerman in the membrane. Insane is the ending game. Cure sacrifice is a goat 720. Listen to me. Try to believe, because I deceive. 33 are underneath. For those who can't see, Centerman in the membrane. Insane is the end game. You are to blame when I created the game. Let's do the Centerman. Let's do the Centerman. Let's dance, pretend we're friends, and pretentious and contentious. Let's be
So yeah, I think I'm ready to go here, and the ChatGPT is ready. Okay, so let me reshare the screen here. All right, so influencer of the Jeffrey Epstein scandal during the 2016 election. Influence of the Jeffrey Epstein case. Okay, so here it is. Introduction and context. Jeffrey Epstein was a wealthy financier and convicted sex offender who mingled with elite figures in business and politics. In 2008, he pleaded guilty to soliciting prostitution from a minor, serving a brief 13-month jail term, and becoming a registered sex offender. By the mid-2010s, Epstein's past and his connection to powerful people, including former President Bill Clinton and future President Donald Trump, began drawing intermittent media attention. Let me get my little cheater glasses here. Well, I don't know where they went. Well, I guess I'm going to have to power through it. As the 2016 U.S. presidential election unfolded, questions arose about whether Epstein's scandal would influence the race. This report analyzes Epstein's media coverage in 2016, its tone and focus, and examines any impact on public opinion, voter behavior, and campaign strategy. It also explores how political actors handled the Epstein issue, whether it led into anti-elite rhetoric in 2016, and how Epstein's associations with major figures, Clinton, Trump, and others, were portrayed. Timeline of Epstein-related events 2008 to 2016. June 2008, Epstein pleads guilty to 2 felony charges related to sex with minors. He serves 13 months in a county jail with work release and is registered as a sex offender. The unusually lenient plea deal, later often termed as sweetheart deal, was not widely known to the public at the time, but it set the stage for future scrutiny of Epstein's ties to influential people. Early 2015, Epstein's scandals returns to headlines when Virginia Giuffre, an alleged Epstein victim, files court affidavits accusing Epstein and his associates of sexual abuse. This includes explosive claims involving Britain's prince, Andrew, and prominent attorney Alan Dershowitz. Media coverage spikes, especially broad, and Epstein's connection to U.S. figures like Bill Clinton are noted in some reports. In 2015, op-ed, Epstein is described as a very shady and very rich convicted pedophile who donated up to $5 million to the Clinton Foundation and once traveled with Bill Clinton and a couple of babes to visit the Sultan of Brunei. Such stories foreshadow the potential political viability Epstein could pose. May 13, 2016, Fox News reports on flight logs indicating that Bill Clinton flew on Epstein's private Boeing 727 jet, nicknamed the Lolita Express, far more times than previously known. The Fox analysis finds Clinton took at least 26 flights aboard Epstein's jet from 2001 to 2003. Including 5 trips where Clinton's Secret Service detail did not accompany him. This revelation contradicts earlier reports of only 11 such flights and raises questions about Clinton's relationship with Epstein. The story is amplified in conservative media and catches the attention of the Clinton campaign staff per later leaked emails. Around the same time, on May 16, MSNBC's Morning Joe panel discusses Bill Clinton's Epstein ties with host Joe Scarborough, warning he's heard the story will blow up, and advisors predicting Donald Trump would not hesitate to use it against Hillary Clinton. On June 2016, a California woman using the pseudonym Katie Johnson refiles a civil lawsuit previously dismissed on technical grounds, accusing Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein of R-ing her at Epstein's Manhattan residence when she was 13 years old. The suit alleges that in 1994, Trump violently R-ed her, the underage teen, at parties hosted by Epstein, and that Epstein himself also sexually assaulted her during these events. The shocking allegation initially attracts little mainstream coverage, in part because earlier iterations of the lawsuit had inconsistencies. September to October 2016, the underage rape lawsuit against Trump and Epstein is refiled in a New York federal court in late September after being withdrawn earlier in the month. A court hearing is scheduled for December, raising the prospect that the issue could gain traction. In October 2016, Epstein accuses Sarah Ransom October 2016, Epstein accuser Sarah Ransom privately emails a New York Post reporter claiming to have video evidence implicating Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, Prince Andrew, and others in Epstein's activity. However, Ransom refuses to provide the supposed tapes and soon retracts her claims, admitting later that she fabricated the tape story to draw attention to Epstein's behavior and protect herself. No story runs in 2016 about Ransom's allegations, but this episode shows how Epstein's saga was spawning extreme rumors involving both presidential candidates. November 2nd, 2016, the woman behind the Jane Doe Katie Johnson lawsuit is slated to appear at a Los Angeles press conference with attorney Lisa Bloom to detail how her accusations against Trump and Epstein, about her accusations. The press event is abruptly canceled, with Bloom stating the accuser received threats and was too frightened to show up. November 4th, 2016, just 4 days before the election, Jane Doe withdraws her lawsuit entirely. Her attorney files a one-page notice of voluntary dismissal, offering no explanation. Through his lawyers, Trump had flatly denied all allegations, categorically untrue, frivolous. It is baseless. And Epstein's camp also declined to comment. The case's collapse means the Epstein-Trump race accusation largely vanishes from the news before Election Day. Election Day, November 18, 2016, the Epstein scandal ultimately remains a minor note in the election compared to dominant issues such as Hillary Clinton's email investigation, Donald Trump's Access Hollywood tape, and other sexual misconduct allegations, economic concerns, etc. Nonetheless, in certain circles, the Epstein story has percolated. Clinton's team monitored it warily, and Trump's allies signaled they were eager to capitalize on it. The question remained, did any of this materially affect voters' perceptions or the outcome? Media coverage of Epstein in 2016, volume, tone, and focus. Volume. In 2016, mainstream media coverage of Jeffrey Epstein was relatively limited in volume. Unlike the wall-to-wall coverage that would emerge in 2019 after Epstein's arrest, in 2016, Epstein appeared sporadically in news stories. Coverage tended to spike when it intersected with the presidential race or other high-profile events, for example, when flight logs were revealed or lawsuits were filed. Major newspapers and TV networks gave minimal attention to Epstein during the campaign, likely because he was not directly in the news. He was living quietly in Florida and in New York then, and because larger campaign controversies dominated the headlines. However, conservative outlets and tabloids devoted more attention, largely in connection with Bill Clinton. Fox News in particular pushed the story of Clinton's extensive trips on Epstein's jet, and right-leaning online publications amplified any Epstein-Clinton links. On the other side, a few center-left outlets noted Trump's past friendship with Epstein, especially when the 1994 R lawsuit emerged. But these stories got limited pickup before the suit was dropped. Overall, Epstein was not a top-tier election issue in most mainstream coverage. Rather, he was a background scandal that flared up occasionally. Tone. The tone of the Epstein-related coverage in 2016 was decidedly negative and often sensational. Reports emphasized Epstein's status as a convicted sex offender and a pedophile, highlighting the lurid natures of his crimes. For example, Fox News and others referred to Epstein's plane as the Lolita Express, underscoring the underage sex aspect. When Bill Clinton's name came up, the tone was one of scandal by association, suggesting impropriety or poor judgment on Clinton's part for fraternizing with Epstein. A roll call piece citing Fox's findings noted that Clinton had flown without Secret Service on some Epstein trips and reminded readers Epstein spent 13 months in prison for soliciting minors for sex. This implicitly cast the Clinton Epstein connection as suspicious. Conservative media went further, often insinuating that Clinton must have known about or participated in Epstein's misconduct. Breitbart News, for instance, highlighted comments that the Epstein story could blow up Hillary's campaign and push narratives from hacked emails showing Clinton's staff's concern. The tone towards Donald Trump in Epstein-related stories was very negative when mentioned. The art accusation was covered in a straightforward but grim manner by outlets like Politico, focusing on the disturbing details alleged. However, because that accusation was unproven and later withdrawn, many mainstream organizations handle it cautiously. In summary, the media tone was sensational and scandal-oriented, and mainly as a bludgeon in partisan context. Clinton's critics harping on Epstein. Trump's critics noting the lawsuit and Trump's past praise of Epstein. There was little sympathetic coverage of anyone involved. Epstein himself was universally depicted as a predator, which colored any mention of those associated with him. Focus and figures associated. Media focus varied depending on the outlet. Bill Clinton. Coverage in 2016 most often connected Epstein to Bill Clinton. The Fox News roll call reports about Clinton's 26 flights on Epstein's jet set the narrative frame. Many stories recounted that Clinton traveled to exotic locations with Epstein, e.g. Asia, Europe, Africa, and even skipped his Secret Service protection on some legs. Right-leaning media hammered this point to raise suspicions. Some reports also noted Epstein donated to Clinton-related causes like the Clinton Foundation or the Clinton Library, further linking Epstein to the Clintons' circle. Because Hillary Clinton was the candidate, coverage of Epstein, the Clintons implicitly targeted her by highlighting her husband's alleged misconduct or lapses. The tone here was often guilt by association, suggesting Hillary's campaign could be tainted by Bill's ties to a sex criminal, even though Hillary herself had no direct connection to Epstein. Notably, the focus was largely confined to conservative media and didn't become a mainstream campaign narrative on major networks, perhaps due to lack of new evidence and the sensitivity of the topic. Donald Trump. Epstein's association with Trump also received attention, though somewhat less volume in 2016 than the Clinton ties did. A widely cited snippet from a 2002 profile resurfaced where Trump quipped that Epstein was a terrific guy whom he'd known for years and that Epstein likes beautiful women on the younger side. This quote from New York Magazine in 2002 was occasionally mentioned in 2016 coverage to underscore Trump's past friendship with Epstein. More substantially, the Jane Doe R lawsuit linked Trump to Epstein's worst crimes. Outlets like The Guardian and Politico reported on the suit's claims that Trump assaulted a 13-year-old at Epstein's home. The focus here was on the salacious and criminal nature of the allegations. However, because the case lacked corroboration and was dropped, major U.S. TV networks largely avoided it, and the tone in the print was careful. After Epstein's 2019 arrest, some 2016 footage emerged shown on NBC of Trump and Epstein partying together in 1992. But in 2016, that footage was not public. In general, media did not know that Trump, as a wealthy playboy, moved in the same social orbit as Epstein and had attended parties at Mar-a-Lago with Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Still, the focus on Trump Epstein in 2016 was limited mainly to the art allegations and brief mentions of their past friendship, overshadowed by the many other accusations against Trump that year from Access Hollywood and other women's allegations. My allergies are bothering me now. Let me come back here. Others. The Epstein scandal in 2016 also peripherally touched other figures. For example, Prince Andrew's name came up in Epstein's stories as Jeffrey had accused Andrew, and this sometimes appeared alongside Clinton or Trump in discussions of Epstein's powerful friends. Media noted Epstein's vast network of influential people, including politicians and celebrities. However, in the context of the U.S. election, Bill Clinton and Donald Trump were by far the most mentioned alongside Epstein. Occasionally, Alan Dershowitz, a prominent lawyer and Epstein associate, was mentioned, but usually in legal context rather than the campaign. There was also a brief chatter about Alexander Acosta, the U.S. attorney who crafted Epstein's 2008 plea deal. But Acosta only became nationally relevant in 2017 when Trump appointed him labor secretary in 2016. Acosta's name was not yet a campaign issue, though the leniency Epstein's received was cited as an example of powerful insiders protecting one another, a theme we will discuss in populist rhetoric. In summary, 2016's media coverage of Epstein was spotty and partisan skewed. Conservative media hyped Epstein and Clinton-related scandal, using a lurid tone and focusing on Bill Clinton's lapses, while most mainstream outlets gave Epstein little attention except when legally necessary. The overall framing was that Epstein's saga was another scandalous thread in an already scandal-saturated election environment. And, I'm going to take a little bit of a break here, and, let's play brackets and jackets. I don't know, maybe not. I don't want to play the whole video because let's play a little bit of it. Let's do it in parts. We can get away with that. Or maybe I can do it this way. But okay, yeah. We'll do some of it. Let's see, which one should we pick? Oh, it feels like it's disappearing. Here, what's this one? Oh, wait. You're not seeing it. I gotta reshare the screen.
Hello, guys. Something special is happening in here. That's right. It's brackets and jackets. Bringing it back for brackets and jackets. Special Epstein Island edition. That's right, folks. Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein, the man with the island, which is suspiciously close to Haiti. That's right. You see this man, Jeffrey Epstein, is funding lots of people. He's funding lots of people on the street to make sure his shit doesn't get out. That's right. They want the record sealed. And they're paying a lot of people. Epstein's paying a lot of people. Oh, boy. For one, he's got a whole Mossad media matrix in America. And I would bet you anything that Alex Jones is one of them. Prove me wrong. That's right. Cappy's in the portal. Cappy's in the portal.
Okay, so I'm going to stop it right there for a second. Okay, he's saying Mossad Media Matrix. All right, I'm kind of wondering, like, maybe we should like research that, right? And he's also throwing out Alex Jones as being one of them. And I don't know if you guys have seen, like, I saw a video recently where Alex Jones is really upset that the Epstein client list is gone. And, you know, just almost like crying, I'm sick to my stomach, I think I'm going to vomit. You know, I saw that, his reaction that the client's list, not gone, but it's just, we're being told that it never really existed. So, but now if you think back, apparently when Isaac Cappy went on Alex Jones' show, he was really grilling him on his authenticity of the things that he was saying. And so because of that, there was, an issue between Alex Jones and Isaac Cappy. So when we look at this, and I just want to say this, and I know we all love, like, everybody loves Isaac Cappy, right? I mean, a lot of people that come to my channel like Isaac Cappy, but you have to realize that he also is talking about Jeffrey Epstein, but he's throwing things through his own filter. And it's really weird, but I just realized this right now. So let's go back, because when you're accusing people of being a part of the Mossad, American media, and you're throwing Alex Jones in there, he's not really giving a fact about it. Although we do know that Isaac Cappy, obviously he has an issue with Alex Jones, but there is no link or proof that is actually real. However, it's being slammed into the Jeffrey Epstein narrative, which, as you can tell, I'm reading this right here of a chat GPT and giving the history of how Jeffrey Epstein was talked about during the 2016 election. My criticism is about, and this was, I'm going to be honest with you. I always had a question mark about Isaac Cappy and the things that he was saying. And the thing that bothered me about Isaac Cappy is that he accused people of crimes, but didn't give any evidence as to why that would be. Not even an explanation, just that they are, just that it happened. All right. I mean, maybe with the Seth Green situation, he described his experience of what happened between him and Seth Green. But again, that's still hearsay. And he named a lot of people, like, for example, Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg, and accused them of things and did not give any example as to why they were guilty of these crimes. Who also does that right now on their channel? Well, that would be David Schurter, and he's been doing it to me. So, and other people. So there's a pattern here of it's one of the logical fallacies. It's where you take something that over here and you try to associate it to something over in another area, but you're not really giving a cohesive link as to why that should be. It's different to speculate something, but so here we go. And by the way, just let me remind you that words and music are powerful, and the song will make you keep certain words in your head and in your consciousness. So it's a great way to implement information into people. I'm just saying that. Let's go back.
Hello, guys. Something special is happening in here. That's right. It's brackets and jackets. Bringing it back for brackets and jackets. Special Epstein Island edition. That's right, folks. Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein, the man with the island, which is suspiciously close to Haiti. That's right. You see, this man, Jeffrey Epstein, is funding lots of people. He's funding lots of people on the street to make sure his shit doesn't get out. That's right. They want the record sealed. And they're paying a lot of people. Epstein's paying a lot of people. Oh, boy. For one, he's got a whole Mossad media matrix in America.
Mossad media matrix in America. So basically, he's saying that our media in the United States is controlled by Mossad. I mean, that's what it means to me, that it's owned by Israel. I mean, again, yeah, there's a lot of Jewish people in Hollywood. There's a lot of powerful Jewish people in Hollywood. There's a lot of powerful Jewish people in the media, but it's still, to think that our media is completely controlled. I don't believe that. And now, to some people, this kind of accusation where you are scapegoating a race of people could be considered anti-Semitic. I know that, I'm probably going to piss off a lot of people. You don't want to look at this. You don't want to see it this way. But I'm saying that it could be seen that way. Okay, let me stop. Okay, so let's get back to the scandal. Now, the question I put in was like, how much, what media coverage was happening? What is my question? Let's go back to here again. I've already read quite a bit. Influence of Jeffrey Epstein scandal on the 2016 U.S. presidential election. Right, and I question, can you run a deep search on the influence of the Jeffrey Epstein scandal on the 2016 election? The reason why I'm doing this is because, from what I'm reading, there was media coverage in 2016. There were allegations of sexual assault of a minor, a 13-year-old, that was in association of Donald Trump and Epstein. But somehow I don't feel like I even knew about that back then. Somehow the media and Fox News or whatever made this, it was all about the Clintons and the Lolita plane, and it was all one party, all one group of people. So Where was I here in this? Okay, so here's where we are. Impact. What was the impact? This is the impact on public opinion and voter attitudes from the Jeffrey Epstein scandal. Did the Epstein scandal meaningfully affect voter attitudes toward the major candidates in 2016? The evidence suggests Epstein's direct impact on public opinion was limited. There were no major public polls in 2016 specifically asking voters about Jeffrey Epstein. This is telling. It implies the issue did not break through the broad public consciousness as a distinct campaign issue. By contrast, other character issues like Clinton's emails, controversy, or Trump's treatment of women generally were extensively polled and discussed. Epstein, however, was largely baked into those broader concerns rather than standing alone. That said, Epstein's scandal may have contributed subtly to pre-existing perceptions. For Hillary Clinton, any mention of Epstein's primarily reinforced a narrative of the Clintons as ethically questionable or entangled with shady elites. Hillary already suffered a trust deficit with voters. For example, polls showed a majority of voters found her not honest and trustworthy by mid-2016. The Epstein story, insofar as it circulated, could feed into that cynicism. Voters who were predisposed to believe the worst about the Clintons, especially Republicans and undecideds, leaning Trump, might take Bill Epstein's ties as further proof that the Clintons associate with corrupt or immoral individuals. For instance, hearing that Bill Clinton flew on a sex offender's private jet to far-flung locations might solidify negative opinions about the Clinton inner circle. However, it's important to note that by 2016, voters were deeply polarized. Those inclined to distrust Clinton likely had many reasons beyond Epstein. Emails, Clinton Foundation donations, past scandals, and Epstein was just one more log on that fire. For Clinton supporters or neutral voters, Epstein's name likely barely registered, given the lack of emphasis by mainstream media and the Clinton campaign's avoidance of the topic. For Donald Trump, the calculus was somewhat different. Trump's image in 2016 was that of a brash outsider, but also one tainted by numerous personal scandals. The Epstein-related accusation that Trump had arred a minor was extraordinarily serious, yet it remained largely unproven and got limited airtime. Therefore, it likely did not penetrate the public consciousness in the same degree as, say, the Access Hollywood tape or the accusations from adult women that Trump had groped or harassed them. The Jane Doe lawsuit was reported in political news outlets and by a few international sources. But because the accuser never went public and dropped the case, many voters were never heard of it. Among those who did, pro-Trump partisans likely dismissed it as a smear or found it not credible, especially given it surfaced late in the campaign and procedural hiccups. Anti-Trump voters, already convinced of Trump's misconduct due to the other allegations, might have folded the Epstein-linked rape claim into a general sense of Trump's character, but it's hard to separate that effect from the broader narrative of Trump's behavior with women. If anything, Epstein's presence in the story added an extra layer of depravity. The idea that Trump socialized with a pedophile and might himself have assaulted a child. But again, this remained a fringe notion because the case didn't proceed. There's no concrete polling showing voters shifting because of this claim. It was overshadowed by other October surprises. One measure of public salience is how much campaigns felt compelled to respond to an issue. On that score, neither campaign faced widespread pressure to answer for Epstein in 2016. Hillary Clinton was never directly asked in a debate or major interview about Epstein's ties to her husband, likely a relief to her campaign. Donald Trump was not questioned about his Epstein friendship or the Jane Doe lawsuit in the debates either. This absence in highly visible forums suggests that journalists and voters were prioritizing their topics. It also implies that outside of partisan echo chambers, Epstein's scandal did not become a top of mind concern for the average voter during the election. In conclusion, while the Epstein scandal was a potent symbol of sleaze, I like that, in 2016, it mostly reinforced what people already felt about the candidates rather than changing minds. Clinton skeptics saw Epstein as more evidence of corruption. Trump detractors saw the Epstein-Trump link as more evidence of Trump's misogyny or predatory behavior, but there's scant indication that Epstein alone swayed any significant number of voters. His story remained a shadow in the background, ominous, intriguing, but not fully illuminated in the public arena from Election Day. Influence on voter behavior and the election outcome. When assessing electoral consequences, one must ask, did Epstein's scandal alter the narrative of the campaign or the behavior of voters in any measurable way? The consensus of analysts is no, not in any significant measurable way. So it's saying that it wasn't really used in the campaign. And it may have affected voters, but it wasn't. Here, Donald Trump and his campaign. Trump himself largely avoided mentioning Epstein in public during the campaign. This was a strategic decision, while Epstein's ties to Bill Clinton could be a weapon against Hillary. Trump was also personally linked to Epstein, which made the topic double-edged. Trump instead attacked the Clintons on related terrain without naming Epstein. For example, he frequently brought up Bill Clinton's past sexual scandals and abuse allegations, calling Bill the biggest abuser of women in the history of our country, and Hillary an enabler of Bill's misconduct. These broadsides were general, referencing Monica Lewinsky or Juanita Broderick implicitly, but not Epstein. The closest Trump came to leveraging Epstein might have been through surrogates or social media hints. Late in the race, there were reports that Trump ally Roger Stone was urging Trump to hit the Clintons over Epstein, and Breitbart, chaired by Trump's campaign CEO Stephen Bannon, ran multiple stories highlighting Epstein-Clinton links. The Trump's campaign's official channels, such as spokesman Sean Spicer and RNC staff, did push the Fox News story about Clinton's Epstein flights on Twitter. Now, so basically what it's saying is like Trump didn't use it, but right-wing newscasts did focus on it. Therefore, there was, by the media, a push for the Epstein scandal. So, I mean, is that the Masada media, American media, that Isaac Cappy is claiming? Because they were pushing the scandal mostly onto Bill Clinton and not to Trump. That was happening. And to think that that's not going to affect voter opinion for some people, or the people that are neutral like me, I think the intent is to possibly affect voter opinion, since Hillary was running for president at that time. This indicates that the Trump team sought to amplify the Epstein issue subtly, letting media and surrogates make the accusations while Trump himself stayed publicly hands-off. This approach minimized Trump's risk of blowback, since Trump's own Epstein friendship, or the Jane Doe allegations, could boomerang if the topic got too prominent. After the election in 2019, Trump would claim he wasn't a fan of Epstein and cut ties years ago, but during the campaign, he mostly kept silent on Epstein. The net effect is that Trump used Epstein as a shadow narrative. He benefited from the Clinton-Epstein association being in the news without having to raise it at a debate or a rally. Okay, so now Trump puts out on social media that all of this was created by the left. The scandal was created by the left, and somehow he's the victim of it. And yet clearly you can hear that on a shadow level with his own media supporters, they were using that scandal to color the Clinton presidency or, campaign, the election. Hillary Clinton and her campaign. The Clintons' campaign strategy was to avoid legitimizing the Epstein issue or giving it oxygen. Publicly, Hillary Clinton never addressed Epstein during 2016. This was unsurprising, and any comment would draw attention to. This was unsurprising. Any comment would draw attention to bills passed, which her campaign saw as a liability. Instead, the Clinton team quietly monitored the situation. According to emails from Clinton campaign chairman John Podesta account released via WikiLeaks, Hillary's staff routinely monitored media for any Epstein Bill Clinton stories. They circulated articles including Fox News flight log piece and even local news columns tying Clinton to Epstein. In one exchange, Bill Clinton's chief of staff, Tina Flournoy, forwarded a 2015 BuzzFeed article titled "Plenty of Innuendo, but No Hard Evidence of New Clinton Sex Scandal," which debunked some Epstein-Clinton rumors. Flournoy's one-word response was "good." This suggests relief that mainstream outlets weren't fully buying into the speculation. Another internal email, subject line 2016 GOP hit on HRC, flagged the Fox News Epstein story and noted Republicans promoting it. The Clinton campaign clearly was bracing for Trump to invoke Epstein or for a late campaign media frenzy. They even had to consider responses to wild allegations like Sarah Ransom's, even though those were retracted. In the end, the Clinton campaign was fortunate. Trump and major media mostly held their fire on Epstein, so Hillary never had to publicly defend her husband on that front during the race. Bill Clinton also remained mum on Epstein in 2016. Only after the election, once Epstein was arrested in 2019, did Bill Clinton's office issue statements clarifying the extent of his interactions, claiming he knew nothing of Epstein's crimes and that he'd flown only 4 trips on Epstein's plane, despite evidence of many more logs. During the campaign, the Clintons' strategy was containment, and it largely succeeded in keeping Epstein in the margins. Other political actors outside the main campaigns, others took up or steered clear of the Epstein matter for their own ends. Notably, Republican organizations and pro-Trump media did use Epstein as a talking point. The Republican National Committee circulated talking points about Clinton's risky associations, and Epstein's name was occasionally mentioned in that context. Conservative commenters, e.g., or on talk radio or Fox opinion shows, would bring up Epstein when lambasting the Clintons. For example, the right-wing pundits highlighted that Epstein's legal team once included Clinton allies, or that Epstein had visited the Clinton White House in the 1990s for a donor event, according to visitors' logs. Meanwhile, Democratic surrogates generally avoided the topic of Epstein entirely, since there was no advantage for them in raising it. They focused instead on Trump's well-publicized misconduct, like the Access Hollywood tape. Okay, so I'm going to scroll through here. Epstein as a symbol of elite corruption, populist, and anti-established rhetoric in 2016. One important dimension is how Epstein's saga fed into the broader and anti-elite populist sentiments coursing through the 2016 campaign. Both the Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump movements drew on narratives that the system is rigged by elites, albeit different ways. Epstein, a rich man who escaped serious punishment for heinous crimes thanks to the high-powered connections, was in many respects a perfect example of those decrying elite corruption. However, the extent to which he was explicitly invoked in this context during 2016 was limited. And wow, it gave me a lot. Epstein's connections to major political figures and 2016 coverage of those links. Bill Clinton, Epstein's most prominent political associations was with former President Bill Clinton. By 2016, the public record from earlier investigations of flight logs showed that Clinton had a friendly relationship with Epstein in the early 2000s. Clinton flew on Epstein's private jet multiple times after leaving office. As reported in 2016, Clinton took 26 flights on the Lolita Express between 2001 and 2003, visiting places like Europe, Asia, and Africa, often related to the Clinton Foundation work. Some flights Clinton took with Secret Service agents, which raised eyebrows. Additionally, without Secret Service agents, raised eyebrows. Additionally, Epstein had donated $10,000 to Clinton's campaign in the 1990s and over $1 million to the Clinton Foundation, the Clinton Presidential Library. Photos existed of Clinton with Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's close associates, at events, and Epstein reportedly visited Clinton's White House on a couple of occasions for donation receptions. In the 2016 cycle, media coverage of the Clinton-Epstein link was mostly driven by conservative outlets. They framed Clinton's association with Epstein as nefarious or at least deeply embarrassing. For example, Morning Joe's discussion, amplified by Breitbart, posted that Bill Clinton's Epstein ties could blow up Hillary's campaign, with the logic that Hillary's use of Bill as a surrogate opened the door to scrutiny of Bill's scandals. The Clinton camp tried to downplay these links. When asked post-2016 staff security with him, a statement contradicted by flight log evidence. In 2016, no such defense was issued because the mainstream press didn't force the question. And it goes on. So the bottom line is, here's the conclusion. Let's do the conclusion. During the 2016 U.S. presidential election, the Jeffrey Epstein scandal remained largely on the periphery, a dark cloud that neither campaign fully brought into the storm. Media coverage of Epstein in 2016 was sporadic and tended to mirror partisan priorities. Conservative outlets harped on his ties to Bill Clinton, while only occasional pieces noted Donald Trump's acquaintance with him. The tone of coverage was uniformly negative, as Epstein was already a convicted offender, and reporting highlighted the unsavory implications of any association with him. However, the volume of coverage was modest compared to the main issues of the campaign. In terms of public opinion, Epstein's scandal did not become a defining election issue. It likely reinforced some voters' existing distrust toward the candidates, particularly adding to a narrative of Clinton/world corruption or Trump's personal misconduct. But there's little evidence it changed minds or votes on a significant scale. Likewise, no clear voter behavior shifts or electoral outcomes can be attributed to the Epstein matter. It was drowned out by larger controversies and concerns. Politically, the Epstein issue was something both Trump and Clinton camps handled gingerly. Trump's team signaled it via proxies but avoided direct engagement, and Clinton's team braced for attacks that mostly didn't materialize. Each campaign recognized the danger in the topic. It was a live grenade that could explode in either hands. Their deft avoidance meant Epstein was never a centerpiece of 2016 campaign rhetoric. Yet, the Epstein scandals were not meaningless in 2016. It contributed quietly to the narrative of elite maleficence that undermined much populist fervor that year. In campaign speeches about a rigged system or an out-of-touch elite, one could easily slot Epstein as a real-world example, even if candidates didn't name him. Indeed, Epstein's existence and the impunity he enjoyed for so long symbolized the very inequities against which voters were rebelling. In this way, Epstein was part of the cultural undercurrent of 2016, a cautionary tale of wealth, power, and abuse that fed a loss of faith in establishment leaders. The connections between Epstein and political figures like Bill Clinton and Donald Trump were acknowledged in 2016, but not deeply probed during the election. These connections became much more scrutinized in subsequent years when Epstein was arrested again and ultimately died in custody in 2019. Looking back, one can see that many threads present in 2016 secretive sex scandals, questions of how far corruption goes, and the entanglement of money, power, and privilege were epitomized by the Epstein case. However, at the time, those threads were overshadowed by more immediate battles. In retrospect, the Epstein scandal in 2016 was the dog that didn't quite bark. It had all the makings of campaign megastory: sex, crime, famous names, yet it remained mostly subdued. This was due to a combination of strategic silence from the campaigns, a lack of new Epstein developments during the election, and the sheer overload of other news. The legacy of Epstein in the 2016 election is thus one unrealized influence. He was a ghost at the feast, present and talked about in hushed tones, but never fully emerging in the din of one of America's most contentious elections. All right, so this is the background of Jeffrey Epstein's influence on the 2016 election when he ran against Hillary Clinton. And the next question I'm going to ask ChatGPT is, what influence did the Epstein scandal that did the Jeffrey Epstein scandal have on the 2024 election? Presidential election. Oh, wait. Shoot. All right, now I want to do a deep search on that. Can you give